Polishing is one of the most effective ways to bring tired paintwork back to life and even take newer paint to the next level. Not only can it remove fine scratches and swirl marks, but it also clears up oxidation, restores depth, clarity and gloss, and gives a paint a deep clean that goes far beyond what a clay bar could ever achieve. Traditionally, rotary machines have been used to polish paintwork. They spin on a single axis, produce a lot of heat, and are hard to finish on and can create holograms. This is where that fear of burning the paint comes from. But these days, dual action polishers have come so far and are really the machine of choice for both enthusiasts and professionals. They don't just spin, they also oscillate, which helps disperse heat and dramatically improves safety. That oscillation adds another layer of control. If the machine can't oscillate, like when you're polishing on an edge or working inside a tight curve, it simply stalls. That's a built-in safety net, especially helpful if you're newer to polishing. In this video, we're going to run through everything you need to know about polishing, featuring our Waxit Enthusiast polishing kit, which stars the brand new ShineMate ERO600 DA machine. We'll break it all down. What's included in the kit, the prep work you should do before you polish, key techniques like pressure, arm speed, and working in passes, how to test different combos and adjust depending on your paint, what to do when you hit tricky curves and contours, and how to look after your pads and machines as you go. Finally, we'll touch on what to do after polishing to lock in your results and why that's just as important as the polishing itself. Whether you're a first timer or someone wanting to level up your results, this is everything you need to get started. Let's start by walking through what you actually get in the Waxit Enthusiast polishing kit and why each piece is in there. At the heart of this kit is the ShineMate ERO600, a compact 5-inch dual action polisher that's incredibly well balanced and purpose built for enthusiasts and pros alike. It's a major step up from the older EX605 with more power under the hood, better ergonomics, and a smarter design all round. The ERO600 runs a 9mm orbit, which strikes a really nice balance, wide enough for solid correction, but tight enough to remain precise, versatile, and user-friendly. Where it really steps ahead is with the updated 600-watt motor and electronic load stabilization, a smart bit of tech that senses when you're putting the machine under pressure and automatically adjusts torque to keep the pad spinning smoothly. This helps massively when you're working through curves, tight edges, or even just awkward angles. It also borrows a lot of refinements from the ShineMate Pro Grade EX620 and cordless series, like the upgraded internals, improved balancing, and overall smoothness. What that means for you is less vibration, more comfort, and more consistent results. And unlike a lot of machines in this price range, it doesn't feel budget. The internals are fully machined, the housing is rock solid, everything about it feels like something you'd expect from a much higher end tool. And it's worth noting, ShineMate isn't just slapping their name on someone else's design. They are a true manufacturer, and over the last few years, they've poured a serious amount of time, money, and R&D into refining their machines. That investment really shows. From the build quality to the performance, ShineMate has pushed the standard forward, not just for the enthusiasts, but across the entire polishing industry. The polishing pads included are also ShineMate's own, well known for their quality, value, and performance. These feature a diamond cut face that help reduce surface heat and lower vibration while you work. That makes them much more forgiving on your paint and easier to handle, especially if you're still getting the hang of the machine polishing. We've got the yellow, which is more of our cutting pad, red, which is the finishing pad, and blue, which is an in-between intermediate pad. They're also impressively durable and easy to clean, and the 3 pad types included cover a great range of correction and finishing needs. Finally, for polish and compound, this kit includes a selection from Kosh Chemie, one of the most respected names in the detailing world. Used by OEMs and professional detailers globally, these products are known for being easy to work with, producing excellent cut and gloss, and wiping off clean with minimal effort. They're also super versatile, effective across a range of paint types and conditions, which is ideal when you don't always know exactly what you're working on. The 3 compounds included are H902, which is our heavy cutting compound, F601, which is more of our intermediate fine cutting compound, and lastly M302, our finishing micro cut compound. Before you start correcting, proper prep is key, because polishing over contamination isn't just ineffective, it can actually cause more damage than good. Start with a thorough wash to remove loose dirt and grime. From there, we want to tackle removing embedded contamination through a claying process, things like industrial fallout, iron particles, tar, and more. the things that normal washing can't remove. This is where you use something like NV Purify, a clay lubricant with added cleaning ability that helps break down stubborn contamination while letting your clay bar glide smoothly across the surface. It'll lift things you might not even see, like tiny metal particles, but your pad can pick these up and inflict damage while you polish. Once that's done, a quick wipe down with something like Carpro Eraser or another solvent-based cleaner that helps strip any remaining oils or residues. This gives your polish a clean surface to work with and makes your results more consistent. The last step before polishing is taping. This is one that often gets skipped, but it's definitely worth taking a few minutes to mask up sensitive areas, rubber trims, badges, plastics and edges, basically anywhere you don't want your pad rubbing up against. It's not just about protecting those parts, but also about keeping the polish where it should be, on the paint, and avoiding cleanup headaches later. Now that the prep's done, let's talk about actually polishing. We usually work in sections about 40 by 40 centimeters to 50 by 50 centimeters. That gives you control over the area, helps manage heat buildup, and makes it easier to track your results. You'll often hear people refer to a pass. That just means going over the working area once in a full overlapping pattern, up and down, and then side to side. For cutting stages, we might do 3 to 4 passes. For finishing, usually less, maybe 2 or 3, depending on the product and the paint. When you're polishing, your arm speed should be slow and steady. If you're moving too fast, you're not giving the abrasives time to work. As for hand placement, your dominant hand should be guiding the head of the machine, while your other hand stabilizes at the back. You don't need to muscle it around, just let the machine glide and focus on keeping the pad flat and in full contact with the paint. And finally, pressure. One of the most misunderstood things in polishing. Too much pressure and the pad will stop spinning, which kills your correction ability and risks marring the surface. Too little and you're just lightly tickling the clear coat without making much impact. A good rule of thumb, you want enough pressure to keep the pad engaged and slightly flex, but still see it rotating steadily. We can see this really easily when we use the ShineMate Red pad, and this is great to do to start out. Full pressure, we can see it just squashes. We don't want this. No pressure and the pad has no flex. Somewhere in the middle with a little flex is what we're going for. As for machine speeds, we usually work around speed 4 to 5 for cutting and 3 to 4 for finishing. Before we dive into polishing the whole car, we want to figure out what works while removing as little clear coat as possible. Most paintwork has somewhere around 20 to 40 microns of clear coat. A full cut and polish might remove only 2 to 3 microns, so it's not something to really worry about, but that's still something you can't put back once it's gone, so best we start slow. And unless you've got a paint thickness gauge, which most people don't, it's smart to start with your least aggressive combination first and work your way up only if needed. To show how different paints can respond, we're working on 2 separate paints here, one being a sensitive, softer paint, and a harder European paint. Starting on our hard paint bonnet, we're going to begin with our finest, least aggressive combo, Kosh M3 with the soft red finishing pad, and see how we go. We'll then try our medium and then most aggressive compounds and compare the results. So we can definitely see that this combo made the paint noticeably glossier and cleaned things up a bit, but deeper scratches, water spotting and oxidation are still visible, so not exactly what we're after. So now we move up and test the middle combination, as we need more defect removal, which is Kosh F6 with a blue pad. The idea here is we want to remove more scratches, but don't exactly know how aggressive we need to go. Straight away, we can see a boost not just in defect removal, but also in gloss and color depth. That's something a lot of people don't realize. Polishing doesn't just remove defects, it unlocks a ton of gloss and clarity in the paintwork as well. Still not completely there for our defect removal, and it's expected on this harder paint. So let's test our most aggressive combo, Kosh H9 on the yellow pad. Our last combo was definitely promising, but we can still get some more defect removal and probably more gloss too. Okay, now it looks like we have found our winner. This has given us not only the most defect removal, but it looks like the best finish, which isn't exactly what you'd expect. That yellow foam softens as you polish, so it doesn't behave like a harsh, rigid pad, and for beginners, it gives a good margin of safety. That said, Chasing 100% defect removal isn't the goal here, especially if you're newer to polishing. If you're happy with how it looks after the cut, great, you can just stop there. But let's see what happens when we follow up over these areas again with a second stage, using our finest compound Kosh M3 on the red pad. This is hopefully going to clean up the finish a bit more and bring out some more gloss and depth. We can definitely see on our favourite combo with the H9 and the yellow pad that the second stage has given us an even better finish. Even on the middle section, it's removing a lot of the haze and increasing the gloss and clarity. We couldn't really see much difference at all on our first area as defect removal was too small. So harder paints worked well with the most aggressive combo for cutting, which makes sense. Now let's see what happens on a different car, this time on a black Lexus, which has a softer, more sensitive paint. Usually with a softer paint, the more aggressive you go, the higher chance you have of hazing up the paint and causing micro marring. But let's put the same 3-stage combo to the test and see what we get. The finest combo actually gave us a fantastic finish, super refined with virtually no haze. It didn't remove all the defects, but it's so much different compared to our first test on the harder paint. By stepping up to F6 on the blue pad, our hopes are we get more defect removal without compromising the finish too much, which can be tricky on softer paint systems, but this corrected really well, probably around 90% defect removal, and finished down to a pretty solid level with minimal haze, more characteristic of our last test with H9 on the hard paint. So now we can try moving up to our most aggressive combo, being the yellow pad and H9, and see what happens here. Most likely, we're going to produce some haze, and this isn't something to panic over. It's good to understand what this is, and we can see a fine, even pattern of micro swirls after polishing with this combo, which is simply residual marring from our cutting step. So if we're assessing a single stage combo, the middle combo, F6 and blue, would be our choice. But we still had to play around with the middle and aggressive combo, followed up by a second stage of polishing with the M3 on the red pad. The results were great. M3 cleaned up a lot of the haze from H9 and made the result from F6 look really good as well. But overall, I would still probably choose the middle combo, F6 and the blue, and then follow up with M3 if I was going to do a 2-step process. The defect removal was similar, but the finish was nicer with F6. You don't need to overthink it, just take it panel by panel, break each section into manageable zones, and focus on consistency. As you go, you'll run into curves, edges, and intricate areas where polishing gets a bit trickier. This is where technique starts to matter a bit more. The goal is always to keep the pad as flat as possible so that the machine can keep oscillating freely. That's how you maintain even pressure and effective correction. But in tighter areas, like around door handles, bumpers, or badge lines, that's not always realistic. So here's what you can do. Use only part of the pad. Sometimes half or even just a third of the pad is in contact with the paint, and that's totally fine. Angle the machine slightly to follow the contours of the panel, while still keeping the pad under control. Keep an eye on your pad rotation. If the backing plate stops spinning altogether, that's your signal to adjust your pressure or positioning. We drew a line on ours so we can tell if the machine isn't spinning. This is also where machines like the ERO600 shine. Its compact size, great balance, and load control tech make it way easier to work through complex shapes without the machine bogging down or getting away from you. So take your time, follow the panel shapes, and let the machine do the work. You'll get a feel for it faster than you think. As you're polishing, your pads are constantly picking up a mix of spent clear coat, compound residue, and general surface grime. Over time, this clogs the face of the pad and can really affect how well it cuts or finishes. A clogged pad will start to produce more heat and actually prevents the abrasives from fully breaking down in their cycle, which will provide inconsistent and worse results. That's why it's important to spur your pad regularly, usually after every panel or two. This means either brushing it out or using compressed air to break up that build-up and bring the pad back to life. You'll notice a difference in how much smoother and more effective the pad feels afterwards. If you're polishing a full car, it also helps to rotate between pads of the same type, which is why we provide 2 of each pad in the kit. This gives them the chance to cool down, which reduces the risk of overheating the pad. Once you're done polishing, give your pads a proper wash with warm water with a dedicated pad cleaner or just a light dilution of APC. Rinse them thoroughly, squeeze out the excess and leave them to dry face up. That way they're ready for the next time you need them. A little maintenance goes a long way here. Clean, cool pads don't just give better results, they last much longer. Once you've finished polishing, your paint should be looking cleaner, glossier, and more refined, even better than it looked on the showroom floor. At this point, this is the perfect time to lock in your results with some protection, like a wax, sealant, spray, or a ceramic coating. What you choose depends on your goals, time, and comfort level, but whatever you go with, applying a form of protection now is what's going to preserve all the hard work that you've just done. We'll be covering this more in detail soon with a full video guide on our ultimate ceramic coating kit. So if that's something you're curious about, stay tuned. Until then, that's the full breakdown on polishing featuring our Enthusiast polishing kit. Hopefully this guide gave you the confidence to get started and a better understanding of how much clarity, gloss, and depth you can really pull out of your paint, even just at home. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.